So this video will be my review of episode 1 of Ms. Marvel that just dropped on Disney Plus today. So this will be filled with spoilers about the episode. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it first before seeing anything online. But if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. Again, spoiler warning for the first episode of Ms. Marvel. So generally, I think this show is better than I thought it was going to be, but I never assumed it was going to be bad. But I honestly thought it was going to have some parts that were boring, but they didn't have that many. They didn't have boring parts at all, I should say. And I honestly feel like the way it's structured is in such a way where I wasn't bored at all and I was entertained the whole time. I really just like the pacing of the show currently. And when I do say that I thought some parts might be boring, I meant in terms of like a teenage coming of age story that I may not be able to relate with as much because I'm older than that age group. But there wasn't even really a whole lot of that type of story involving high school antics or anything like that. And I thought there was honestly going to be a lot more than that. At least this is obviously just the first episode, so who knows, we might see more of that. But it was definitely more family-oriented and culturally oriented to the type of person who Kamala is, being a Muslim Pakistani-American teenager, and I really enjoyed seeing everything that they did with that in this episode. I also really enjoyed the way this show is edited because it seems to take partial inspiration from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is kind of funny because Brie Larson is also in that movie, and she's obviously Captain Marvel, who Kamala is a superfan for in this show. And speaking of who Kamala is as a character, I think they're doing a really good job of her characterization of being like a super fan of the superheroes of the world. And what I really like about this show is that it obviously feels super connected to the rest of the MCU, but simultaneously it just feels like normal. Like, what I mean by that is like, you don't have to necessarily pay attention to the interconnectedness of the show to the rest of the MCU, even though it's most definitely hyper-connected to the rest of the MCU, but it just feels like we're watching a show about the life of a superhero fan unfold that just happens to take place in the world of the MCU, and it just feels natural. It doesn't feel like there's any emphasis kind of on the hyper-connectedness. I think I'm getting my point across in what I'm trying to say with that. And now, I've talked about her power changes before, but again, I'm going to reserve judgment on how I feel about it until probably the end of the series, because I don't think it would be right for me to prematurely make a decision about how I feel about it and, base it upon what I don't know Marvel Studios potentially has in mind with what they want to do with her powers, and I want to see more with how they use it. So we saw a tiny glimpse of her powers when she was at Avengers Con towards the end of the episode, and when I was watching that scene, it didn't feel out of the ordinary to me, so that might be a good sign for how I personally feel about the powers going forward. Although I do think the cosmic bangle is a suspicious thing for her grandmother just to have and send to her, and it looked almost as if her mom might be like aware of it or what it does potentially, and maybe she's trying to protect Kamala from that type of life or what the bands could potentially do. That's obviously just me speculating. I don't know if that's the route they're going to go, but I honestly just felt that that one thing in particular was suspicious. And then there is a post-credit scene to this episode which introduces the agent who basically harassed Peter Parker during the events of Spider-Man No Way Home because of the stuff that took place with Mysterio and Far From Home, and he wants to bring Kamala in after seeing the video of her using her powers. I really enjoyed the normal credit scene as well because I liked how they input like all of the traditional Kamala comic imagery in there. I just really liked what they're doing with this show. Overall, I thought this episode was really good. I'm not going to give it a rating or anything because it's the first episode, so I don't really know what to base it off of. But I did think this is a really good start, and the show is looking to be better than I thought it would be originally. Comment down below what your thoughts on Ms. Marvel Episode 1 was on Disney+. And if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and I appreciate you for watching the video.